Introduction. The shadow of the Aswang does not fall softly. It claws its way into the lives of those who dare cross its path. In a place where whispers become warnings and every night hides a hunger older than memory, one question haunts the living. What kind of creature wears the shape of those we trust? Follow this trail, and you will discover the truth that was never meant to surface. The first omen, it began with a disappearance. Not a violent one. Not at first. Just a silence where a voice should have been. In the small barangay at the edge of the mangroves, people whispered that Elena had gone to visit a distant cousin. Others claimed she'd left at dawn to buy medicine in the next town. But those who truly paid attention noticed the signs, the kind that most are too afraid to speak of. Her dog refused to enter the house. The windows stayed shut even on the hottest day of the month. And at night, a scraping sound echoed from her roof, slow and deliberate, like claws testing wood. Only her brother Mateo dared to search for her. He walked the narrow path behind the village, where the trees twisted into unnatural shapes and the air smelled faintly of iron. The deeper he went, the heavier the forest became, pressing against his skin as if trying to warn him back. Then he found it, a single footprint in the mud, human in shape, but far too long. And beside it, dripping from a broken branch, was something thick and dark. Mateo froze, because he knew that scent. Everyone did. Blood, but not from any animal. He lifted his flashlight toward the trees. The beam flickered once, twice, and then he saw a shape shifting between the leaves. Thin, bent, watching him with a hunger that did not belong to this world. The Aswang had chosen its next prey, and Mateo realized too late that he was standing exactly where it wanted him. Part Dois. What watches from the trees, Mateo did not run at first. Fear held him still, not the trembling kind, but the heavy, ancient terror that forces the body to obey silence. The figure in the trees didn't move, it only breathed. Slow, dragging breaths that rattled like dry leaves crushed under bone. The forest pressed around him, listening, waiting to see which of them would make the first mistake. Mateo lifted his flashlight again. That was the mistake. The light caught a glimpse of its face, or something wearing the idea of a face. The eyes reflected nothing. The mouth hung too wide, as if unhinged, and the skin shifted subtly in the beam, stretching and tightening, like it was remembering how to hold human shape. A low clicking sound filled the air. Not from its throat, from its teeth. Mateo stumbled back, heartbeat roaring in his ears. He knew the stories. Everyone in the village did, but stories never mentioned how cold the air becomes when an Aswang decides you're worth hunting. He stepped on a branch. It snapped. The creature responded instantly. With a sickening lurch, it crawled down the tree, limbs bending at angles no bone should allow. Its movements were fast, but wrong, like it was imitating something human, but failing to fully understand the mechanics. Mateo ran. Branches whipped his face as he sprinted down the path, every step chased by the scraping sound of talons tearing into bark. He didn't dare look back. He didn't need to. The forest told him it was close, too close. Something landed behind him with a thud that shook the ground. He reached the clearing near the river and skidded to a stop, gasping. The moon reflected faintly in the black water, giving him just enough light to see his shaking hands. But the forest had gone quiet, completely quiet, and that was worse than the chase. Because silence meant one thing, the Aswang hadn't lost him. It was choosing how to approach next. From the other side of the clearing, a voice called out softly. Mateo, he froze, because it was Elena's voice. But Elena had been gone for 3 nights, and no human voice echoes with that much hunger. Diga part tras, para continuer. Part tres, the river that remembers Mateo's lungs tightened as Elena's voice drifted across the clearing, soft, familiar, and impossibly wrong. He turned slowly toward the sound, every instinct in his body urging him to run, yet unable to disobey the strange pull of hearing her name, wrapped in a voice that should not exist anymore. "Elena?" he whispered. The silhouette by the water straightened. It had her height, her hair, even the small, habitual tilt of her head, as if she were trying to read a distant thought. For a fleeting second, hope stabbed through his fear. It was cruel how the mind could betray a man, how yearning could temporarily blind him to the unnatural. "Help me," the figure murmured. But the words were spaced oddly, like each one was chosen from someone else's memory. And the body moved with a faint delay, as though the shape wearing Elena's outline struggled to coordinate its borrowed limbs. Matteo stepped back, feet sinking into the damp soil. "Elena died," he said, voice cracking. The silhouette tilted its head further, the motion sharp enough to slice the moonlight. "No," it whispered. "I am here." The river responded with a slow ripple, as though recoiling. Matteo felt the forest behind him shift. Not with wind, with presence. A crawling awareness pressed against his spine, the same way animals sense an earthquake seconds before the ground breaks open. The figure stepped into the moonlight, and the facade of Elena shattered. The skin around the jaw loosened and drooped like wet cloth. The left eye rolled upward, unfocused. The right eye fixed on him with predatory stillness. And beneath the imitation of her voice, another tone vibrated, deeper, hunger-thick, echoing like something speaking through a hollow shell. Matteo staggered back, slipping near the riverbank. The creature stepped closer, its feet not quite touching the ground, each movement disjointed, as though each bone had been rearranged. "Elena misses you," it crooned. "Come with me." "She waits." "You're not her," he whispered. A slow grin cracked across its too wide mouth. "No," it agreed. "But I remember her." Something rustled behind him. A warning, or perhaps the forest bracing for what would happen next. Matteo turned slightly, scanning for escape routes, but the trees seemed to lean inward, branches tangled like ribs of a closing cage. The creature lunged. Matteo threw himself sideways, rolling into the shallow river. Ice-cold water surged over him, knocking the breath from his chest. He scrambled to his feet just as the creature skittered along the bank, unable to cross immediately. Its limbs convulsed, jerking violently, as though the water's presence stung it. Realization struck him. The old stories, whispered by elders half drunk on fear, claimed the river remembered things the Aswang wished to forget. They said flowing water disrupted whatever dark thread stitched its human disguise together. The creature screeched, the sound splitting into several overlapping pitches. The shape of Elena's face collapsed, sliding down like melting wax. Beneath it, shadows writhed, forming and dissolving as the Aswang fought to hold its form. Matteo backed deeper into the current, the stones shifting under his feet. The creature paced along the edge, furious but calculating, its eyes burning with a patience far older than any human life. This wasn't retreat, it was reconsideration. And that terrified him more than any chase. Because ancient predators do not give up, they adapt. The Aswang lowered itself toward the water's edge, talons twitching, testing the boundary between what repelled it and what it could overcome. Its voice rose again, not Elena's this time, but a low, resonant growl that vibrated through the trees. "You cannot hide there forever." Matteo's breath caught. It wasn't trying to reach. Part 4. The bones beneath the trees. The river numbed Matteo's legs, but he stayed in the water, eyes locked on the creature pacing the bank like a starving animal circling a trapped deer. Moonlight sliced across its warped silhouette, exposing glimpses of bone beneath shifting layers of false skin. The disguise it had worn so effortlessly earlier now peeled in strips, revealing the truth beneath, something ancient, angular, and horribly patient. The Aswang crouched low, its elongated fingers dragging across the mud. Every movement was slow, deliberate, almost ritualistic, as though observing him, measuring him, memorizing his fear. The forest seemed to join its stillness. Even the wind held its breath. Mateo swallowed hard. "You can't cross," he said, trying to convince himself more than the creature. The Aswang's head snapped toward him, eyes gleaming like wet obsidian. "Rivers shift," it hissed. "Boundaries break." Then it rose to full height. And that was when Mateo saw the truth. This thing had not been stalking him by chance. It had followed him from the village, from the church ruins, from the night Elena died. Like a stain smeared across his life, growing darker each year, he tried to forget her. Memories flashed behind his eyes, not warm, but jagged. Elena vanishing into the forest for herbs, her scream in the distance, the search party finding nothing except a single torn ribbon tangled in the branches, and the whispering elders insisting he let the dead stay dead. But he had not listened. Grief had made him stubborn, and stubborn men attract the attention of predators who crave unfinished stories. "Why me?" he called out. He didn't expect an answer, but the Aswang paused and smiled. "Because you opened the door." The words slithered through him, colder than the water. His pulse hammered as he searched the creature's face for more meaning, but its skin shifted again, rearranging into jagged patterns of sinew and shadow. The river current strengthened, pushing against him as if urging him to move. But stepping out meant exposing himself. Staying meant freezing. Neither choice offered safety. The Aswang reached out one skeletal hand, dipping a fingertip toward the surface. The water hissed like hot metal plunged into ice, burning the creature's flesh. It recoiled instantly, but not in fear. In irritation, it would find another way. Mateo glanced downstream, searching for a crossing point or a hiding place, but the riverbank curved into deeper forest, thick with undergrowth. Behind him, the water deepened. Ahead, the monster waited. Trapped between two dangers, he had to choose the one he understood better. Before he could move, a sound broke the tension. A soft crunch in the trees behind the Aswang. The creature stiffened. Its head snapped toward the noise, jaw twitching in annoyance. Something else was watching. Something that did not belong to the river or the creature. Another set of footsteps. Mateo froze. The Aswang's posture changed, lowering its body like a predator, acknowledging another presence. But not as prey, as competition. "Not yours," the creature growled toward the trees. Branches parted. A dim, wavering lantern light emerged, held by a man Mateo vaguely recognized, old, gaunt, wrapped in a shawl of dried herbs and feathers. His eyes were clouded with years of knowledge no sane person would want. Mateo whispered, "Mang, Isco?" The elder did not look at him. His gaze was locked on the Aswang, as though seeing a long-expected enemy finally arrive. "You should not be near the water," the old man said calmly. The creature let out a low rumble. "This one is marked." Mateo's heart lurched. Marked? By what? By whom? Mang Isco lifted a small clay vessel and shook it once. The herbs inside clattered like bones. "He is not yours to claim." The Aswang stepped closer, ignoring the burn of the riverbank. "He called to us the night she died. His grief fed the darkness. He belongs to the old pact." Mateo felt the world tilt as those words landed. A pact? He had never made any pact. Mang Isco finally looked at him. But there was no comfort in his expression, only a grim acceptance. "It is time," the elder said, "for you to learn what really happened that night." Mateo's stomach tightened. The Aswang grinned, exposing rows of serrated teeth beneath its collapsing face. "Yes," it whispered. "Let him remember." And in that moment, Mateo realized something far worse than being hunted. The creature did not want to kill him yet. It wanted him to know why. And the truth waited in the trees behind Mang Isco, a truth no river could wash away. Part 5. The night the forest chose, the forest swallowed Mateo and Mang Isco as soon as they left the river behind. The air felt thicker here, heavy with the scent of damp earth and something older, the kind of smell that clung to places where prayers had once been whispered in desperation. The elder walked ahead with surprising speed, lantern-light trembling in his thin fingers. Mateo followed, glancing back only once. The Aswang did not pursue. It stood at the river's edge, watching them vanish between the trees, its form rippling like a shadow caught in a storm. It was waiting. It knew he would return. Mateo hurried to catch up. "Tell me what happened," he demanded. "All these years, you acted as if Elena's death was something we weren't supposed to talk about." Mang Isco didn't stop walking, because talking about it gives the forest permission to answer. That doesn't make sense. It will. They reached a clearing, where the moonlight filtered through a hole in the canopy, illuminating a circle of stones half buried beneath moss. Mateo felt a strange pressure in his chest, as if the air resisted being breathed. Something had happened here, something violent, something unfinished. "This is where she died," Mang Isco said. Mateo shook his head. "No. We searched this area. We never found her. You were not meant to." The forest hid what it wanted to keep. His hands curled into fists. Why? Why her? Mang Isco finally turned to face him. His eyes, milky and distant, sharpened with a clarity Mateo had never seen before. Elena carried a bloodline older than this village. The women in her family were born with a gift the old ones feared, a gift that could unmask creatures who lived by deceit. The Aswang hunted her because she was a threat. Mateo's breath caught. She never told me. She didn't know. Her mother died before she could teach her. The circle of stones seemed to pulse under Mateo's feet. He imagined Elena standing here, frightened, calling his name. The thought sent a dull ache through his ribs. So the Aswang killed her because of who she was? Mang Isco hesitated. No, it killed her because of what you did. The words hit with the force of a hammer. Mateo felt the world tilt. What I did? I wasn't even here. You were, Mang Isco said quietly. But you don't remember because the forest took that memory from you to keep you alive. The ground seemed to sway. A fragment of something long buried flickered behind his eyes. Moonlight, trees, Elena screaming his name, his own hands trembling as he ran toward her. What happened? He whispered. Mang Isco lifted his lantern, revealing faint markings carved into the stones, symbols arranged in spirals, some broken, some smeared. You tried to save her. You called to the spirits for help, but the forest does not give without taking. When you begged for Elena's life, you offered your own without realizing it. A pact made in fear is still a pact. Mateo stumbled back. No, I never. The Aswang heard your plea and came to claim what was promised. The elder continued. But the river stopped it that night. The forest hid you. And in return, it took your memory of the event so the pact would not consume you before your time. Mateo clutched his head as another flash of memory cut through him. Elena collapsing, the creature rising from the shadows, his own voice shouting words he didn't recognize. The memory dissolved as quickly as it formed. I didn't mean to make any pact, he said through clenched teeth. Intent does not protect you from consequences. The circle of stones shuddered with a faint rumble, as if something beneath it stirred at the sound of their voices. Mang Isco stepped back. The creature returned because the pact is waking, he said. And tonight it intends to finish what began here. Mateo looked at the stones, at the forest, at the fading fragments of the past, clawing their way back into his mind. The truth was no longer a distant shadow. It was standing at his feet, waiting to be acknowledged. What do I have to do? He asked. Mang Isco exhaled a long, trembling breath. You must confront the memory the forest stole from you. Only then will you understand what the creature truly wants. A cold wind swept through the clearing, bending the treetops. Something was approaching. And this time, it wasn't hiding. Before we face what Mateo buried in this forest, make sure you're subscribed. You do not want to miss what comes next. And tell me in the comments, do you think Mateo's pact can be undone, or is he already marked for death? Part SIX, the shadow that chooses you back. The wind grew colder as Mateo stepped into the center of the stone circle. The ground felt alive beneath him, pulsing like a slow heartbeat buried under soil. Mang Isco remained at the edge, gripping his lantern so tightly that his knuckles whitened. Close your eyes, the elder said. The forest cannot return what it stole unless you ask for it. Mateo hesitated, then obeyed. Darkness swallowed him instantly, not the comforting kind behind closed eyelids, but a suffocating void that pressed against his skin. A faint whisper slithered through the air, brushing the back of his mind like a memory breathing again after too long. Then the night split open. He was no longer in the clearing. He stood in the same forest, but younger, unscarred, naive, desperate. Moonlight shimmered across the leaves. Elena's voice echoed from somewhere ahead, trembling with fear. Mateo! He ran. Branches whipped against him as he pushed through the trees and burst into the clearing. Elena was there, cornered by a creature rising from the earth like a shadow unfolding. Its body twisted, limbs bending backward, its face rippling between forms it had stolen and consumed. Mateo felt his younger self's terror, raw and overwhelming. "Run!" he shouted. But Elena didn't run. She stepped in front of him, shielding him from the creature, her hands trembling but determined. The Aswang spoke with two voices layered atop each other, one mocking, one hollow. "She sees us. She always has." Elena grabbed Mateo's arm. "We need to go now." But the creature's talons lashed out, dragging her back with unnatural strength. She screamed his name again, the sound splintering the night. Young Mateo dropped to his knees, hands shaking, begging for something, anything to save her. Words spilled from his lips, ancient syllables he had never learned, taught to him by panic, pulled from a part of him he didn't understand. "Forest, please, take me instead. Let her live," the world answered. Wind surged through the trees, twisting violently around him, making the ground tremble. The Aswang hissed, retreating slightly, as if struck by something it could not see. Elena reached toward Mateo, tears streaking her dirt-covered face. "No, don't." The pact sealed itself in a single heartbeat. The forest devoured the memory before it could kill him. Everything blurred, the screams, the shadows, the pact, collapsing into a black stillness. And then he was back. Mateo gasped, stumbling as he returned to the present clearing. The stones vibrated beneath him. Mang Isco's lantern flickered wildly. "You offered yourself," the elder whispered. "But Elena died before the pact could be completed. And so the creature has waited all these years for you, the one promise left unfulfilled." A low growl rumbled behind them. Mateo turned. The Aswang stepped into the clearing, taller than before, its human disguise discarded entirely. Its skin was stretched over sharp angles. Its eyes glowed with patient hunger. Every shift of its body emitted a wet, grinding sound, like bones rearranging themselves to fit a nightmare's blueprint. "You remember now," it said. "Good." Mateo stood his ground, sweat sliding down his spine. "So that's it. You take me, and this ends?" The creature tilted its head, amused. "You misunderstand. I do not want your life." Mang Isco inhaled sharply. "Then what does it want?" The creature's smile stretched, splitting its face wider than any human jaw should allow. "I want what the forest denied me," it said. "I want the bloodline Elena carried. I want the gift she never learned to use. And you, It pointed a claw at Mateo. Are the last linked to it? Confusion cut through his fear. I don't have any gift. You do now, the creature hissed. Her death passed it to you. The ground trembled violently. The stones cracked. The trees leaned inward, as if the entire forest were inhaling. Mateo felt something awaken inside him. A faint pull at the edge of perception. A sense of eyes opening where none existed. He saw shapes within the dark, currents in the air, movements of creatures that hid between worlds. Elena's sight, Elena's inheritance, and the Aswang lunged. Instinct moved him. Mateo raised his hand, and the forest responded. Wind erupted from the ground, swirling like a living barrier. The creature slammed into it, shrieking as the unseen force hurled it back. He staggered, stunned. I didn't know I could. Mangisco grabbed his arm. You are not meant to fight it. You are meant to survive it. The creature rose again, furious, its body contorting into a new grotesque shape. Mateo realized something with chilling clarity. It would not stop. Not now. Not ever. Unless he chose the ending himself. He looked at the river in the distance. Flowing water. The one thing that disrupted the creature. The one boundary it couldn't cross without unraveling. He met Mangisco's eyes. It's the only way. The elder's expression tightened with grief, but also understanding. Then run. And pray the forest favors you one last time. Mateo sprinted toward the trees as the creature roared and gave chase. Branches whipped behind him. The ground shook. The forest twisted paths open for him, or perhaps it merely wanted to witness the outcome. The river roared ahead. Mateo leaped. The creature lunged. Both crashed into the water. The world erupted in screams, his and its, and then everything dissolved into white, blinding silence. The river carried the sound away. The forest stilled. And the shadow of the Aswang finally broke. Whether Mateo survived or not. That part, the forest never returned.